Hello everybody, my name is Lee, and welcome to my BookTube channel. Sit back and relax and enjoy some talk of books. This video is going to be all about a reading challenge I set for myself. For a while I was calling it the 2020 Reading Challenge, but I've kind of changed the name because it's no longer going to fit into the entirety of 2020. So I am now dubbing it the Read Everything on Your Shelves Challenge. So this challenge really began last October. I set it for myself because I had a really huge clear out of the shelves behind me. Each of these shelves is 2 rows of books deep. And when I had cleaned them all off, I discovered that I had about 1 3/4 rows worth of books that I had yet to read. And it was a little intimidating to know that I had invested money, other people had invested money into this hobby that I loved, and I had not returned the investment. So I set out to read all of the books I had yet to read in 1 year. So I set that challenge in October of 2019. It is now September 10th, 2020. I am less than a month away from October, and if I am being very optimistic, halfway through all of those books. Which was a little disappointing because, you want to meet your goals. You want to prove that you can do something really cool. So that was a little disheartening, but over the summer I cranked out quite a few, which made me feel a little bit better. I buckled down and got them read. So the purpose of this video is to really motivate myself to see how many more I can get read by the end of the year. That's a huge undertaking, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. So I didn't push myself to read all of them because that would be unachievable and would stress me out and kill my love of wanting to do this. So I just challenged myself to see how many titles you can get through. 1, 5, 10, who knows? So now that this formal introduction is out of the way, I'm going to be a little more casual and talk to you about why I love these books. So if you're ready, let's meet the titles. I have read 13 books out of my to read everything on my shelves challenge. So I'm just going to give you a quick walkthrough of what they are and the summary and like a brief book review of each of them. So the first one I read, I rang the new year in with this one, is called The Traitors Kingdom by Erin Beaty. This book has a sort of funny story with it. So I was perusing the shelves at Barnes & Noble, as you do, feeding my addiction of walking in and buying everything I see. And I happened upon this book, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so I flipped it open and I read the summary, and I bought it. And it wasn't until I got home and started reading, I was maybe 3 or 4 chapters in, when I realized this isn't a standalone novel. This was actually the finale of a trilogy, and I had just skipped the first 2 books. But it's really good. It's about an 18-year-old ambassador whose name is Sage, and all children born out of wedlock are given flower or plant names in this world, and she has fallen in love with a high-ranking army official, and it's all about their story of negotiating peace in wartime. There's some mistaken identity, some good suspense in here. Will the 2 lovers ever find themselves again? And of course, a happy ending. I won't tell you what happens, but it's really good. I would encourage you to read this trilogy. I've never read anything by Erin Beaty before, but I was very impressed. The second book I read this year is called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by Berendt. This was probably one of the most interesting books I have ever read. I actually decided to read this book because I wanted to participate in the challenge of reading the most popular book published the year you were born. So I was born in 1994, and this happened to be the #1 book. So this book also has kind of an interesting backstory. It had been on my wish list to read for a while, and it wasn't until I went on a mission trip to Denver, Colorado that I found it. So at this mission trip, one of our jobs was to work at a thrift store. And at the end of our time working there, the store managers kindly gave us some store credits to purchase whatever we wanted from the store. And so obviously I went to the bookshelves because purchasing hardcover books for low amounts of money is a skill of mine. And I told the girls who I was supervising on the trip that they could pick one book that I would have to read. And lo and behold, they found this one. And it was just sort of a fortuitous thing. When else are you going to find a $3 hardcover book out in the wild? So the story is about a New York journalist named John Berendt. It's sort of his memoir, basically just a summary of his time spent in Savannah. And each chapter really is about a different character, and that's honestly what I can describe all of the people he meets. They are all characters. Some of them are weird, some of them are adorable, some of them are nuts. But ultimately it's about Savannah, Georgia, and how it is a town caught out of time. So it is sort of stuck in this weird catch-22 of preserving their antebellum history, but also embracing larger acceptance of new ways of thinking. So embracing gay rights, finally addressing issues such as the pay difference between different races and why there's such a difference in social standing. It's still the 90s, so it's still not as PC as we would like it to be today. There's some language and some sensual scenes in here, but it's such a hilarious and poignant book that reading about the early stages of the world, embracing these larger demographics of people, was really inspiring. And John himself freely admits that he's a flawed character in here, and that some of the experiences he has, he too harshly judged or wish he would have behaved differently. So there's a little bit of race awareness, I guess, with how he interacts with these people in here. It's a stellar book, and I have never read anything like it, and I doubt I will ever find a book that's as sort of odd and niche as this one. My mom actually has read this one as well, and she's seen the movie, and I'm really excited to now watch the movie and see how it holds up. So the next books that I tackled, I'm always going to do the series together so I don't waste too much of your time, but the next books I tackled were by Terry Brooks. Terry Brooks is the author of the Shannara Chronicles, which is probably the more well-known books of this series. And I first was introduced to the Shannara Chronicles by a friend in college when I think it was Sci-Fi that made the TV series. I can't remember. It was really good. It sucked me in, and she told me that her dad used to read the Shannara Chronicles books to her and her sisters as sort of bedtime stories, and I thought that was really cute. So I looked it up, and he has so many books about the Shannara Chronicles, trilogies, quartets, duets of books that are all sort of in this historical post-apocalyptic magical society. And so I decided, instead of reading the Shannara Chronicles, I would find someone who had actually organized them in chronological order by what happens in the series. And so I bought the first trilogy off of Amazon. You can find really great penny novels on Amazon. The three are Running with the Demon is the first one, Night of the Word, and Angel Fire East. All of them are about a girl named Nest who finds out that she has magical powers just like her mom and her grandma, and basically just battling against demons who are poised to take over the world. The other character's name is John Ross, who is a Knight of the Word, and it's his job to basically be immortal until the sort of divine beings that charge him with walking the earth call him to be done with the job, and his job is to battle demons. And it's the trilogy of their story, and Nest learns a little bit more about who her father is, which is a huge plot twist, and it's just the beginnings of Terry Brooks's post-apocalyptic world in which the Shannara Chronicles take place. So watch the TV show, it's really good, but also read these books, they're really awesome. The next book I read, this book jacket is also missing, is called The Queen of the Night by Alexander Chee. This was so good. It's a thick book, and it took me, I want to say maybe 3-ish weeks to get through the whole thing, but it's about a Parisian opera singer and her rise to fame and the many bridges she burned and the enemies she made along the way. And it's set in Paris post-revolution, I believe. But then the Hessian invasion of Paris happens while she's in Paris. And she basically is an indentured servant. Sometimes she's a prostitute, some other times she is the star of the stage. There's so many twists and turns in this book, so you're never quite sure where she's gonna end up. And the ending is really interesting, and it's not a happy ending. It's kind of a sad sort of, it's a full circle ending, but it's satisfying in a sad, bittersweet kind of way. I don't read too many books that, you know, don't end on a slightly positive note. This one didn't, but it didn't disappoint either. So if you are interested in historical fiction with a good dose of actual reality thrown in and a huge cast of characters, and you really like learning about a particular industry, you learn a lot about opera and showbiz in this book. So if you're interested in any of that, I would highly recommend this book. Set aside some good time to read it because it does take a while, but it's worth the effort. So at the beginning of the summer, after I finished A Queen of the Night, I wanted something lighter to read that was a little more easily digestible. And if you want to know a fun fact about how I view my books, I always organize my books alphabetically by author. Gotta take a sip break. And this one happened to be next. It's called The Last Voyage of Blythe by Condie. And I picked this up at Walmart. They were having a sale, and usually I can find some lighter summer reads while I'm there. So this book is very interesting. It's about a girl named Blythe. I think she's 17 or 18 in this story. And she works on a machinery ship, I don't know really what to call it, that basically floats in the river and mines the riverbed for gold. And it's terrible for the environment. But she and the love of her life, Cal, are on the ship, and raiders come aboard the ship and kill her beloved. And basically a year passes, and she spends all that time inventing a method of warfare that is like a bunch of turning gears on the outside of the ship. But she refuses to be on board one until she is commissioned to become a teenage captain of the last sort of voyage venture for gold in the river. And she, of course, encounters the raiders. It's probably the ones who killed her boyfriend. And she learns a little bit more about them, and the enemy sort of switches in her mind, and it's about her conflict with her hatred of the raiders compared to the actual evil that's in her midst. So this one also has kind of a twist ending. I'd be curious to know if she ever writes a second book to follow this. It reminds me a lot of the Divergent series in between the first and the second one, where Triss basically discovers that there's this whole other world outside of the desert. It's been a while since I've read those books or watched those movies, but it kind of reminds me of that. So if you want a good lighthearted fantasy adventure, this would be a really good choice. Now, the series that took up the bulk of my summer is the Dark as Rising sequence by Susan Cooper. This one I'm a little embarrassed about because I actually got these, I think, or maybe I got the first one in a Scholastic book fair when I was in middle school, I want to say. How many of you loved the Scholastic book fair? I can't be the only one. It was like Christmas getting that catalog at school and going through and dog-earing all of the stuff you wanted. That was my first book wish list. That's what those came from. Anyway, I think I got the first one because I think that was the only one out at the time. And for Christmas or my birthday, someone bought me the next 4. I read this one, or maybe I listened to the audiobook of it too, I can't remember, way back years ago. And then I watched The Dark is Rising because that's the only one that's a major motion picture. And then I didn't read the rest of them. And it's what happens when you leave it be for too long, you forget everything that happened in the book. So I had to start over from the beginning and read them. Thankfully they're pretty thin, but the 5 books in the series are Over Sea and Under Stone, The Dark is Rising, Greenwich, The Grey King, and Silver on the Tree is the finale. Now, what I love most about these books is that it's not really evident too much in the beginning, but all of this is based on Arthurian lore. So King Arthur, the Round Table, the Knights, Merlin. It's very subtle in how she uses this, unless you read the introduction or the notes at the end. The first book is about finding the Holy Grail, so there is a little bit of that in there, but you don't really fully understand all of it until you really get to the Grey King, which is one of the characters whose name is Will, and Bran. It's set in Wales, and Will and Bran are charged with solving or putting together the pieces of this big long poem that was found on the Holy Grail, which was discovered by Simon, Jane, and Barney, or Barnabas. And so all 5 of those kids plus Mary, Great Uncle Mary, or Merriman Lion, basically are battling the dark, which is rising and terrorizing the world. So if you like good kid adventures, I would probably say that it's middle grade literature, although some of this is pretty heavy and very legend and myth based, and even for me, some of it I had to go reread a few things because it was so not dense, but in a good way. So I had to go back and really sit with what was in here, but they're amazing if you like good legend stories. These are really awesome. And the final book that I completed in this challenge so far is The Barbary Pirates by William Dietrich. I don't remember where I got this book, but kind of like the Traitors Kingdom, the first book that I showed you, this is part of a longer series, the Ethan Gage collection. Again, it is historical fiction, so a lot of this stuff in here actually happened, and probably the most interesting thing that I learned from this book was in the Marine Corps hymn, there's the line, "From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli," and this book is based around the American war with Tripoli, or modern day Libya. And that war is really the debut of the American Marines, which at the time were a branch of the Navy before they became their own separate entity in the early 1800s. If you like Indiana Jones style or like National Treasure, Ethan Gage is a treasure hunter who's sort of on loan from America to other countries to find big treasures. And so there's a little bit of Atlantis legend in here. There's also a little bit of Greek legend in here with Archimedes and a weapon of mass destruction that he invented way back in ancient Greece. There's some lover enemies in here. You also find out that Ethan has a family, and yeah, there's a little bit of cults in there. It's chock full of stuff, and I really want to read William Dietrich's other installments of the Ethan Gage adventures. The one that I am currently reading in my Read Everything on My Shelves challenge is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I've been practicing my French. I have a long history with this book. Again, it was given to me for either Christmas or my birthday. In the summer of 2015, I was interning at a couple libraries because, as I said, I really love library science. It's my favorite thing. And I decided that I would read this over the summer. And I made it I don't even think I made it halfway through before I put it down. And it's now 5 years later, and I am picking it up again. Oh, I'm so embarrassed that I did that, because this is one of those books that has been forever on my to-read list. It's so good. One of my favorite books is Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I just love this era in France's history. This is post-revolution, but it's just my favorite, and it's such a legendary story. So I technically started reading this last week. I am about 120, I am 120 pages, not about, I am. What chapter am I on? I'm on chapter 15 right now. Love that I can still read Roman numerals. All the chapters are in Roman numerals. Really proud that I can still do that. The introduction to this was fire. It was so good. Kept me hooked. He's still in prison. Edmond Dantes, the main character, hasn't escaped yet. I'm not going to spoil anything because if you've never read this, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, to finish this one next week by mid-September so that I can start on one more title. So 13 books may seem like a lot to read in a year, but not when you have 29 left to go. Sip break. So that's the huge challenge that I set for myself last year. I'm not gonna do, I think, another update of this challenge until the end of the year. So this is my call to action for all of you. If you are like me and you have purchased more books than you've read, I encourage you to clear out your shelves, organize them how you want. Like I said, do mine alphabetically by author. It's too much library in me to do it any other way. And yeah, see how many you can read by the end of the year. Or if you want to do it like me and set it a year challenge, see how many you can read by next fall. So I would really encourage you to do that because, like I said, usually, at least for me, people have invested money into buying me books because that is a love language of mine, and I want to make sure that I return on that investment. Even if they never know about it, I want to honor the fact that they love me enough to buy me a book. So that's my goal and my motivation for doing this. I hope you will as well. This is something that I'm really passionate about, and I want to share with the world my taste in books and why I love reading. I have never done a YouTube channel before, so this is brand new to me, new format. I have uploaded for other businesses that I work for, but not just me talking to a camera. So I hope you like this. I'm not really expecting anything huge out of this. I just have so much up here that I want to share with everybody about my love of books. So I will be doing several other videos this month. My plan next week is to start having a weekly reading vlog. Just to show you how much I read, what I'm reading, why I'm reading it, what I'm thinking about it. And then I will have a few other videos this month. I think next week I'm doing the BookTube newbie tag, which is explaining why I created this video, or why I created this channel, what I'm planning to do on it, what motivated me to start sharing what I love. And then at the end of the month, I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing my fall wish list for books. I just want to share with you this huge passion I have. So if you want, subscribe. Videos will be coming out Friday and Sunday. So Friday will be sort of my main videos where it's just me and you talking about a subject, and then on Sunday my vlogs will be uploaded. So that's the tentative plan for now. Welcome. This is what I affectionately call my cozy corner. So I spend a lot of time reading. You're currently sitting on my recliner where I do most of my reading. And yeah, so welcome to this space. If you're an avid book reader like me, I like to call myself a bookworm, in the best term, a four-eyed bookworm. So yeah, if you want to get started reading, if you are reading, if you've been reading for a long time, welcome. This is a safe place for us to share what we love reading. I'm excited to see where this takes me and how many kindred spirits are out there who love books. So, all right, I've talked at you long enough. Thank you for stopping by. I will see you next week.